Welcome back. So this is part two of a tutorial series. In part one, I showed you how you can utilize the custom menu board item from Pic-N-Mix mod to create essentially your own functional restaurant that does not need a chef, host, and server inside of the Sims game. And in part two, for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can take any item that is meant for Sims 2 and duplicate it so that it's functional inside of the game. And the process is pretty straightforward. We're going to be using SimPE. There's just a few nuances with making sure that you're changing the guide correctly so that it's functional inside of the game. Before I get started with the tutorial, I'm just going to show you what the end result looks like and kind of do some testing so that you can see what it looks like before we get started. So this is the Asian street food market that I mentioned in part one. And the kind of idea that I had for the street food market is that I've built a few custom stalls. See if we can pan over to one here. And as you can see inside of the stall, I have the custom menu board. And if a sim interacts with it, they're able to order a snack, in this case, okonomiyaki, egg rolls, and a few other items, or they can even order a drink. If I pan over to the next stall, you'll see that I duplicated those custom menu boards. And if a sim selects it, they can order a different type of snack like spicy ramen. We have like Japanese ramen and onigiri and a few things like that. They can also order different drinks, so soju and sake. And if we go down to the last one, this is also a duplicate. But as you can see, they can order from a completely different menu that has all seafood items. And they can also order soju as well. So let's zoom back out to our character Lucky here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the buy mode. And I'm going to go ahead and locate those custom menu boards. And as you can see, I have quite a few different menu boards here, but I wanted to show you guys something special. So let's go ahead and place move objects on so that we can place this right in front of Lucky. So this is the first menu board and here is the second one. But what I would like to show you is that even using SimPE, you can change the title for the item as well as the description. So as you can see here for now, I'm just using generic titles. So Asian menu board style 1 because it's located in food stall 1. And then for the description, instead of using an actual description, I'm putting each of the food items that are inside of that specific menu board as well as the drinks. And if I pan over here to the second one, you can see that the title changes as well as the food items and drink items that are contained within it. So let's go ahead and go back to live mode and let's have Lucky come over here and order okonomiyaki. And we're just going to test and make sure that that works. So that's my dog in the background, if you guys can hear that. So you can see that that works and he was able to order an item from the original board. And instead of letting him eat that, let's go ahead and cancel that action. And then let's test out this second menu board. So let's click on it and let's have him order something different. For example, let's do the Japanese ramen. And so we'll give him a second. Okay, he's thinking about it. And then it looks like he's purchased it. So let's just pan over and we can see that both of those are working even though they're essentially the same item, but they have two of their own custom food menus. So we can see the okonomiyaki and then we can also see that Japanese ramen here. One thing that I would like to point out before we close out of Sims and start working on the tutorial is that I did find with Pic-N-Mix mods, they do tell you to place a countertop either 1 to 2 spaces in front of the menu board. And essentially, what happens when the sim orders it is that the food will generate on that counter that's in front of it. Now, what I found in my testing is that you don't actually have to place a table or anything like that in front of it, although it does look a lot better and a lot more realistic. But even without it, as you could see just a moment ago, they will still order from that board, and the food item will actually spawn into the Sim's right or left hand, and then they'll just take it and sit down and eat. So let's go ahead and close out of Sims 2. We are now out of Sims 2 and we're back on the desktop. So what you're going to want to do is open up your Sims 2 downloads folder, and then you want to navigate to wherever you're keeping your custom menu boards. So for me, I've now moved that to my downloads folder inside of the custom community lot sets, custom menu boards, and then here we are. So one thing I would like to explain, just for general housekeeping for myself, what I've decided to do is keep the original menu board from Pic-N-Mix mods at the top level of this folder. And then in addition, I also have these other themed folders that will contain more menu boards according to the place. So right now I have the Asian street food market, and it has each of its custom items or custom menu boards in there. But for example, if I wanted to go and create an African street food market, I can create a new folder, and that way all of the custom menu boards are housed within that one folder. So on to taking an item and being able to duplicate it with SimPE, you're just going to locate the original item, which in this case is the WH menu boards from Pic-N-Mix mods. So I'm just going to right click on it, and then I'm going to go to open with, and I'm going to open it with SimPE. We'll just give that a second to load. Okay, so here is the original item. Let's go ahead and pop SimPE to the left of the screen. And I'm just going to go look at the texture image just so I can, yep. And so we've confirmed that this is the correct item that we actually want to edit. What I do want to point out as well is if you noticed with doing this duplication, I'm using the original item, right? So I did not go inside of the Asian menu boards and then use style 1, 2, or 3 and duplicate it. I would actually recommend that you start with whatever is the original. And if you read through the SimPE tutorial, they kind of explain that that makes it a little bit easier, because essentially whenever we're going to add new foods or things like that inside of SimPE, if you were to use something that you've already customized, this list might be really long. So you may have, strawberry feta salad, and then after that, there may be 10 other items just for food board number 1. And if you duplicate over that, then your duplicated item is going to have all 20 of those items plus the new 10 items that you're trying to add. So as you can see, it can get like a little bit more convoluted, and then you got to make sure that you're zeroing out the items that you don't want to show. And when you come back to try to do anything else, it just may get really confusing. So again, I would just recommend that you duplicate the original item that you downloaded, not anything that you customized. Okay, so now that we're in SimPE, I'm going to actually go ahead and take a look at the Google Sheet that we opened in part 1. And I did scale and customize a little bit more just to plan out the Asian food market. So as you can see in my Google Sheets document, here is the front of the lot that had the mahjong tables that you guys saw. And then here is that first food stall, the snack bar. And you remember seeing the okonomiyaki, and there was like egg rolls and fizzy drinks and things like that. Here was the second food stall that had the spicy ramen. And here was like the fish market with all the seafood dishes. So all of these are pretty much done. And in this tutorial, what we're going to do is take the original menu board and we're actually going to duplicate it so that we can make this last stall here, which is going to be the Japanese sweet ice stall. So now that we have that out the way, let's pop back over to SimPE. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click here at the very top of the resource tree panel. And I'm going to click on that first row that says all resources. So make sure that you're kind of located at that top level. Go ahead and click all resources and you should see it highlighted. And then at the top menu next to file, we're going to click tools. We're going to go all the way down to object tools. And then we're going to click fix integrity. And as you can see, there is a wizard that pops up here in SimPE, and this is going to allow you to update all of the important naming and conventions and things inside of the files for this particular item. So for this, we did have a written style. I'm just going to look in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and update the model name. You want to go inside of the text box and we'll say Asian underscore menu board dash style. And I'm just going to call it style 5 to represent food stall 5. So you want to place the new name in here and do not skip this step. Don't try to leave it the same. You want this to be different for each of your files just to avoid any type of confusions or conflicts with Sims 2. So once you have typed in your model name, you're just going to click update. And if you saw that, everything below inside of this naming box has been updated. So now we know we're good to go. We're just going to hit OK here. And as you can see, it's updating and it's fixing everything inside of all of the resources. And again, we know that from part 1 because you can see here that the files are now showing in italics, meaning that something was changed to the file and it hasn't been saved yet. So we know that the wizard worked just fine. So the next step, and this is going to be very, very important, especially if you're duplicating the item using the fix integrity menu item, is that we're going to save, but we're specifically going to save as so that we do not overwrite over the original file. So let's go up here back to file in the menu bar and click save as. And then we're going to give it the same name that we named our model name. So Asian underscore menu board dash style. And then we're going to call this style number 5. And so we're going to hit save. And as you can see here inside of our file explorer, we now have a new package file that says Asian menu board style 5. And I'm just going to go back and make sure that it did not overwrite over the original menu board. And it didn't. We could still see that here. So don't skip that step. You don't want to overwrite anything. You actually just want to make a new item. Okay, so great. Now that that is done, let's go ahead and work on updating the item guide, because essentially right now, even though we've duplicated this item, if I were to go back into Sims 2, what would actually happen is I wouldn't see the Asian menu board style number 5. I would only see this original item. And when I click on it, essentially the Asian menu item 5 would show up as a recolor, but a non-functional recolor, meaning we wouldn't see any of the custom food that we added to it. And we don't want that. So we want to make sure that we're updating and changing the guide so that it shows as an individual item inside of Sims. So let's minimize our file explorer. And then we're going to open up a new tab. And I'm going to go to this website called huge lunatic.com, and you want to do / creating a new guide. And as you can see, this awesome person wrote this tutorial on how you can basically use generators to generate a new guide for your items. And they give a pretty detailed tutorial, so we're going to kind of use it as our guideline. So back up here at the top, they offer two links that you can use, either random byte generator or random hex generator. Use whichever one makes you feel the most comfortable. I like to use random byte generator, so I'm just going to click on it. And it's taking me to random.org. So we're going to pan down here to where it says Part 1, Required Fields. And where it says Generate 10 random bytes, let's change that number 10 to 4. And we're going to go ahead and leave it on hexadecimal for our option. Then let's go to Part 2, and we're going to press Get Bytes. And so as you see, that opened up a brand new tab, and it gave us this custom generated number that we can now use as a guide inside of our game for our item. So let's keep this number in mind, and let's go back over to SimPE. And again, we're going to go over to that resource tree panel, and let's go all the way down to Object Data OBJD. And then we're going to click on the file name that says Object. And inside of there, you can see that we have access to our guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete everything that's after the first 0 and X. So we see here inside the guide panel, it says 0x, and then there's a string of numbers. We want to go ahead and delete that because that's the guide number for the original object. And then we're going to take our random number that was generated through random.org. We're going to right click and go to copy. And then inside of SimPE, we want to paste that after the 0 and the X in the guide field. So let's hit paste. And then the last step that you want to do is make sure to remove all the spacing so that it looks like the original number. And just double check that there's no spacing after. There is, so let's remove that as well. And then we're going to click update. And then we're going to click commit. And as we can see here, it's showing, hey, there was a change to this and we just need to save it now. So let's go to File, and then let's click on Save. Okay, so now that that's all saved, what I would recommend you actually doing at this point is opening up your Sims 2 and just kind of double checking everything before you get too far along. So double check, and when you go inside of your buy mode, you see two separate items, right? They're going to look the same, but you should see two separate items, and that's how you know that everything is working okay. If instead you only see one item, and when you click on that item, it looks like there's a bunch of recolors that are the same color as the original, then something was not right, and you should go back through the steps to make sure that you generated a random guide that actually would allow it to function properly in the game. Because if you didn't, then that just means that the guide's the same and the game is registering that, hey, this is the same item. Okay, so we're almost there. If you tested the game and everything was working correctly, we can move on to the next steps, which would be updating the object name inside the game as well as the description, and then adding in our custom menu items if you're using the custom menu board for this tutorial. So inside of SimPE, go ahead and open back up your newly duplicated item, not the original. And then what you're going to do is go over to the resource tree panel. We're going to go down to the row that says catalog description CTSS. Go ahead and click on that. And then inside the resource list, click on the file that says catalog description. And as you can see, we have two different labels here. So they both just say menu board for this item, but depending on what item you're duplicating, it may say something else. But either way, whatever's on the row 0 is going to be the title. And then whatever's on the row 1 is going to be the description. Okay, so just to show you that in real time, I'm going to go ahead and click on row 0 so I can change the title, and make sure that when you're updating anything here, you're changing it inside of this box that says string, not this one to the right that says description. So let's go ahead and delete that out. And I'm just going to give it the same name as my file, but you can call it whatever however you would like it to appear in the game. So for me, I'm going to just say Asian underscore menu board dash style 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on row 1 for the description. Let's delete out whatever description is there. And then I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and add in the description similar to the other menu boards. Awesome. I am back and I've updated the description for this item. I've also went into the food menu items just as I showed you in tutorial part 1, and I went ahead and added the custom foods for this specific menu board. Just to go ahead and get that out the way. And again, if you don't know how to do that, then go back to part 1 where I show you just how to make that happen. So we're going to make sure that since we've updated our title, our description, as well as the foods that are included on this menu board, we're going to make sure that the file is committed. And then we're just going to go to File up at the top of the SimPE menu bar, and we're going to hit Save. And once that's finished saving, we can close out of everything, and then we can go ahead and open up Sims 2. And let's test it out. We're going to make sure that that duplicate item is in there and that it's not conflicting with anything else that we have inside of the game. Let's take our Sim Lucky. Let's go ahead and send him back to the Asian street food market. So we'll zoom out. We'll go over to the lot and let's go ahead and have him walk to that lot so that we can test and make sure that the food stall menu board 5 is actually there and that we can actually get food from it and not compete with any of the other custom boards or throw any errors. Okay, Lucky, are you? There we go. And let's just give that 1 second to load. Should hopefully be pretty quick. I don't have too many mods or anything inside of my Sims game, so the load screens are pretty fast usually. Let's have Lucky test out the new custom food board. We'll also just check inside the buy catalog to make sure that it is actually in there first. So let's go back to small appliances. And I already can see that this is kind of working. If you remember when we first started out, we had 5 custom menu boards, whereas now we have 6. So that already lets me know that things are headed in the right direction. I'm just going to click here. Let's go ahead and place down the food board. And so I'm glad that I double checked this. It looks like the game has rotated the menu around. If you remember correctly, when we first did the test run, the first menu board was actually here on the far left side of the menu, but now it's at the right, letting me know that things got reversed. So I will just click here. This looks like the original, so let's click here. And here is the Asian menu board style 5. So let's go ahead and do move objects on. And let's place that down in the street. And go back to live mode and let's take a gander at it and see if Lucky can see. So again, this is another way that I know that this is looking good is all of the other food items have been removed. I can see because there's only one menu item here now. And if I select order dessert, I can see here are all of the different sweet ice. I see that one, I need to fix the name, but I can still see that the flavor is there. So grape, green tea, lemon, and strawberry. Let's go ahead and try selecting the sweet ice green tea and we'll hit play to confirm that he can actually buy something from this new duplicated custom menu board. So he's thinking about it. Looks like he purchases it. I see it spawns in his hand. And there we go. So look like our new duplicated item is working. And just taking a look at one of the other menu boards. This is menu board number 4. And I see that it maintained the title and the description. So I'm assuming that this is still working just fine. And we can see that. So order dessert, order snack, order drink. If I go to dessert, here's all the custom items for that. So I can obviously see that even though this is the same item that was duplicated, it still maintained as individual food items.